I'm Erica. Sitting here beside the hospital bed, watching the woman who once seemed like a threat to my world now fighting for her life, I can't help but reflect on how everything went so wrong. The beeping of the machines is a constant reminder of the fragility of life, and the guilt weighs heavily on my shoulders. My life was once a carefully constructed fortress. I built it brick by brick, with high standards and strict control, much like a general leading an army. I lived in a beautiful mansion in the heart of the city, where every detail exuded wealth and success. People around me saw me as a strong and formidable woman, and I let them believe it was all natural. At the center of my world was my only son, Ethan. From the moment he was born, I knew he was special. He was the proof that all my hard work and sacrifices had meaning. I dedicated myself to shaping his life, making sure he had every advantage and opportunity. I carefully selected his schools, activities, and friends, always with an eye on his future success. Ethan was a bright and charismatic child. He had a natural charm that drew people to him, and he excelled in everything he did. Teachers praised him, and other parents envied him. I was proud of him, but I also worried about him constantly. I knew the world was a dangerous place, and I wanted to protect him from any harm. As Ethan grew older, he started to show signs of independence. He talked about going to college in a different city, and he made new friends who I didn't know much about. I tried to be supportive, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. I was used to being in control, and I didn't like the idea of him being so far away from me. One day, Ethan called me and said he wanted me to meet someone important. I was immediately suspicious. I asked him all sorts of questions, but he was evasive. When we finally met at a quiet restaurant, I was shocked to see the woman he had brought with him. Her name was Lily, and she was nothing like I had expected. Lily was from a small town, and she had a simple and humble background. She was soft-spoken and polite, but there was something about her that made me feel uncomfortable. I could tell she didn't come from a wealthy family, and I worried that she might be a bad influence on Ethan. During dinner, I tried to size her up. I asked her about her job, her family, and her plans for the future. She answered my questions politely, but I could tell she was holding back. I didn't like the way she looked at Ethan, as if she was trying to take him away from me. After dinner, I talked to Ethan about my concerns. I told him that I didn't think Lily was the right person for him, and I tried to convince him to break up with her. But Ethan was stubborn. He told me that he loved Lily, and he wasn't going to let me come between them. A few weeks later, I discovered something that shattered my world. I found a marriage certificate on the dining table, and I realized that Ethan and Lily had gotten married without telling me. I was furious. I felt betrayed and hurt, and I couldn't believe that my son would do something like this behind my back. I confronted Ethan about it, and we had a huge argument. I told him that he had made a big mistake, and I tried to make him see that Lily was only after his money. But Ethan wouldn't listen. He told me that he was an adult, and he had the right to make his own decisions. In the following weeks, I tried to apply pressure on Ethan and Lily. I asked them about their financial situation, and I reminded them of how expensive life could be. I also tried to imply that Lily was dependent on Ethan, but Ethan stood up for her. He told me that Lily was a strong and independent woman, and she had supported herself for years. I was shocked by Ethan's words. I had never seen him so defensive before, and I realized that he had changed. He was no longer the obedient son I had raised, but a man who was willing to stand up for what he believed in. Then, one night, everything changed. I received a call from the hospital, telling me that Ethan and Lily had been in a car accident. I rushed to the hospital as fast as I could, but when I arrived, I found Ethan sitting in a corner, looking devastated. Lily was in surgery, and the doctors said her injuries were serious. Ethan told me that he had been drinking, and he had made a terrible mistake. He blamed himself for what had happened, and he couldn't stop crying. In that moment, all my anger and resentment towards Lily disappeared. I realized that she was just a young woman who had fallen in love with my son, and she didn't deserve to be punished for his mistake. I also realized that I had been wrong about her. She was not a threat to my family, but a part of it. As the hours passed, I sat by Lily's bedside, watching her fight for her life. I held her hand and whispered words of encouragement, and I prayed that she would be okay. I also watched Ethan, and I saw a different side of him. He was no longer the reckless and confident young man I had known, but a man who was filled with guilt and remorse. During this time, I started to learn more about Lily. I talked to the nurses and the doctors, and I learned about her past. I discovered that she had a difficult childhood, and she had worked hard to overcome her challenges. She was a kind and compassionate person, and she had always been there for Ethan, even when he was at his lowest. One day, while I was sitting alone in Lily's room, she stirred. She murmured something, and I leaned closer to hear what she was saying. She repeated a name, Jake. I was confused. I didn't know who Jake was, and I wondered why she was thinking about him at a time like this. I started to do some research, and I discovered that Jake was an old friend of Lily's. He was a musician, and he had a national following. I also learned that Lily and Jake had been in a relationship before, but they had broken up because of his career. I decided to go and see Jake. I wanted to find out more about him, and I wanted to see if he could help Lily. I traveled to Boston, where he was performing, and I managed to get backstage to meet him. When I told Jake about Lily's accident, he was devastated. He told me that he had never stopped loving her, and he had always regretted letting her go. He also told me that Lily had chosen Ethan because she saw something in him that she didn't see in anyone else. She had believed in him, and she had supported him through his difficult times. I was ashamed of myself. I realized that I had been so focused on my own fears and prejudices that I had never taken the time to get to know Lily. I had judged her based on her background and her appearance, and I had never given her a chance. Jake decided to help Lily. He organized a series of benefit concerts, and he raised a large amount of money for her treatment. Thanks to his efforts, Lily was able to transfer to a specialized hospital in New York City, where she received the best possible care. Over the next few weeks, Lily slowly started to recover. She was still weak, but she was alive, and that was all that mattered. Ethan also changed. He took responsibility for his actions, and he became a more mature and responsible person. He spent every day by Lily's side, and he supported her through her recovery. As I watched Lily and Ethan together, I realized that I had been wrong about so many things. I had thought that love was something that could be controlled and manipulated, but I had learned that it was something that was beyond my control. I had also learned that true strength came not from wealth and status, but from the ability to love and be loved. Today, Lily is fully recovered, and she and Ethan are happier than ever. I have also changed. I have learned to let go of my control and my prejudices, and I have learned to accept Lily as a part of my family. I have also learned that forgiveness and second chances are possible, and that sometimes, the greatest lessons in life are the ones we learn the hard way.